So we're here on the couch today with Randolph Matthews, an international performer, a vocal explorer, a creator of music.
Nice.
We're just going to do a little insight into artist development sessions and take it from there. So Randolph has come to Ireland as part of our industry mentorship events with Mad About the Voice Ireland. One of the things that we want to do is give singers loads of knowledge and opportunities to develop their craft. And when I met you, one of the things that you did, even though you're a stage and performance coach, one of the things that really stood out for me was your presence and your branding. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
So for me, having presence has always been the key part of my shortcomings as an artist. It's like actually being able to know that I have the ability to be on stage, make that difference and have an effect on people's lives or an audience when I'm on that stage. It's not something which came within 5 minutes. It was something which I had to really work on through the experiences of just trying to do more of who I am. And I think that can be the hardest thing as an artist, is to recognize what you stand for, and be able to then take that journey towards doing it more and more and more and more, and really trusting in that part of it. So yeah, I mean, I think that the aspect of sort of presence is a journey that you kind of need to take on yourself.
How do we do that?
Well, I think there are many ways to do it, which is it's recognizing first of all what you want to, what inspires you, and what you want to say to people. Mm-hmm. You know, what you think. And at different phases in your life, I can look at myself when I was 17 years old to 21. Yeah, just that small gap between I think I want to do music, I don't know what it is, and then surrounding myself with musicians, or curiosity to find out what it meant, being around musicians. What did I have to offer that musician circle or ecosystem? Mm-hmm. And then recognizing, sort of 21, that actually I think I've got something here which is really powerful. And then from there on, my 21 to maybe 30s was about the sort of hustling and grime of sort of like pulling up weeds and sort of recognizing what is it that I do best. And it takes time to create a identity that people or the industry recognizes is what you do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes time to get to that point. So for me, the only way that I could have done it was to go all in.
You did.
It's just to go all in on it. Leave my job and go all in. Some people, it can be different layers. You might decide, it's deciding what you do with your time as well. It's deciding, if I work 9 to 5 and I love music, then dedicate your time to do music or to do your craft after work.
You also threw yourself all in for your brand as well. So when I see you, I always see Randolph with a hat. Yeah. I always see Randolph with a stylish coat, a particular style of coat, and a suitcase.
Yeah.
And you follow that through in your music all the time. Mm. And one of the things you said yesterday was the intention is the most important part.
Yeah.
So for someone who has maybe an idea of what type of an image they want to portray, what are your tips for that image and how they might go about portraying that?
So image is something which I think naturally is personified through you. That's the first thing. I would ask friends. Yeah. I asked my wife about what looks good, what feels right, what looks good on me.
Yeah.
And sometimes your own perception of yourself is not as clear as you think it is, until maybe other people can say, wow, gosh, you've seen you kind of wearing this hat, or I've seen you wearing this suitcase. My thing was I walked into a charity shop, and at that point I was looking for a new image, not because of branding, but just I felt like I wanted to evaluate myself differently now, and just was like, Emperor's new, clothing.
Emperor's new groove.
Yeah, just wanted a new groove. So I walked into a charity shop with no real expectation. I just looked and I thought, every time I put a hat on, it never fits. Yeah? I never really find lots of things in a charity shop. On this occasion, I was in this charity shop in Lewisham. I looked on a shelf, saw this hat, and I was like, okay, it's probably another hat that's not going to fit. I put it on my head, it was like, bang! It's like, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels good. And then I found a shirt, which was almost like a lumberjack type shirt, and it fit. And then I found these old shoes. They were really, really lovely shoes. And I put them on, and all those three things fit on one particular day. And I was like, I walked out there practically with a brand.
Yeah.
And because of that, I loved the three parts of it because they felt comfortable with me. I felt comfortable with it. And I just thought to myself, you know what? It feels comfortable, so I'm going to continue. I might change it at some point in the future, but my brand, I've built lots of different things on those three things.
So you walked out with a brand, and I feel like your brand really matches your type of music, your New World vibe, your African roots, but at some point you had to have walked in there with something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a sense of knowing who you are,
yeah,
and the kind of person you want to be. But I think to say maybe to people, pick out a style or an image that feels comfortable for you. I could wear a nice pair of skinny jeans and feel comfortable, but it's not necessarily my brand.
Yeah. Well, this is why you need to be.
So how do we find what you found? Because it wasn't necessarily your clothes that felt comfortable. It felt comfortable on a deeper level.
Yeah.
That echoed who you are.
Well, I think if I was to, I would follow the situations bring out those opportunities to recognise what feels good, what feels good for you. That's one thing. So me doing a gig with a massive ski coat doesn't work. Practically, with someone else, it might work because it'll be their style.
I won't even say names.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention anybody. But I just recognised when I started to perform that this felt good, and it felt good for the type of audience I was performing to. So, for example, jazz music, and the whole thing of actually my upbringing, where my mother sort of spoke about, being a gentleman. And for me, my dad was a gentleman. And for me, becoming a dad, I felt like I was a gentleman. That was my little thing. So I looked at what type of things online represented a gentleman. So this whole concept of dandyism. Yeah. So people who take maybe old type styles and make them look really good, or take a suit or mix and match old and present things. So for me, I was into trainers. But really nice trainers, and I thought, well, I like wearing jeans. I don't ever want to stop wearing jeans, but I quite like the fact of wearing a shirt, and I quite like the fact of actually having a sort of suit top part on. And then I looked and I thought, I look just like my dad, but hipper, with a new feeling. So the exploration, the only way to do it is to explore it. You can make up, I think artists can put together a collage of things that they like. Mm-hmm. Because the things in the world, you just need to look and say, I like that, I like that, I like that. Put it all together, try it out. Try it out. That's the only way that you can find your branding, because it has to be the thing that is true.
Yes.
And it has to be the thing that feels comfortable to you to be able to maneuver in.
So while we are talking about clothes and hats and suitcases, it's not necessarily the image. It is the image, but it's not the. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, it's not the
image. It's deeper than the image, and it's the intention behind. It's having that whole intention with your music. That my music says one thing, my persona says one thing,
It's
and
you.
I follow that the whole way.
Yeah, it's you, and it's just whether you decide that you're or accept that can sometimes be the most fundamental part of who you are already. You know, the word gentleman is something which came even before the clothes. Yeah, it wasn't the clothes.
So you walked in wanting to be a gentleman into the shop.
It just was. I was at that point where actually in the clothes sense, that was now going to start to present itself. But in my heart, as a person, as a musician, I was a gentleman. I was already considered to my audience as somebody who was gentle.
Yes.
And a gentleman who I don't know it depends what people define it as, but I think somebody who was quite upstanding with their way of doing something as well. And that for them was quite unique.
Your presence.
It was quite a unique thing. So I think that's the most important thing, is to kind of listen and be aware of sometimes what the feedback is in terms of what you naturally do already. And if you can start to put that together as a picture, at different points you can recognise what decisions I need to make about the brand to make it work better.
So in a slightly different concept, the other day you talked about nerves and how when we go on stage, some people who suffer really badly from nerves can often hold their body.
Yeah.
And that is the same as wearing an outfit, because they're wearing a form of being nervous, insecure.
Yes.
So it's the same way in your clothes, where you wear the brand that represents the kind of music that you want to put across and the character you want to put across.
Yeah. In different countries around the world, there's, in particular, I'll give you an example. There's I think it's in either the Congo, there's a group of men that would be called Sapors.
Okay.
And I think they did an advert for a big brand, a drinking brand from Ireland, if you can think of what that is. We don't talk about that here. And so basically they did this advert based on these guys, and the whole aspect of the Sapors is the fact that in their community, which was ridden with poverty, to see a man dressed up with pride, who worked his life, worked from the factories and came out and took his money to buy clothes, to then be able to walk through the streets with pride, made his whole community feel stronger. So in different senses, it can be very symbolic to people. And that's why when we're looking at branding, you can only wear what is truly you.
So the first point is people have to figure out what's truly them.
Yeah, you have to figure out what's truly you first. And I think, forget about the clothes in terms of branding. Branding isn't just about clothing. Branding is about how you take what you are about and you share it into the world, because you acknowledge it and you are able to market that colour, that experience, and make it something which then people can buy into.
So we have to go back to the drawing board.
Always. I'm always going back to the drawing board when it comes to do with my own brand, because it's, people have different needs at different times. Or, you know, I might be in Ireland at this present moment, and I recognise that my brand stands for something different here than it would if I went to South Africa, and they've got lots of people who might wear hats and might wear glasses, might wear braces, for example, as a brand, or as opposed to going to Vietnam, where I would be somebody totally different for them, possibly again, walking the streets. So it's just, again, it's how you decide to use it. And for me, that's quite a colourful thing, because for me, my world of doing music is a worldly thing. That's why #Randolph World was created.
Yes.
So that it gives me the opportunity to not just travel the world, but travel in sound. Travel in terms of, this is my world. This is how I do it. This is what I recognise is what I do as well.
So would it be fair to say, for people who are looking to develop their own brand, obviously it's very hard to figure out who you are sometimes. I think that's a really difficult one for people.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes easier to figure out who you want to become. So figure out who you want to become and already act like you are that person.
Yes.
And dress for that person.
Yeah. I think you have to always be less pondering about the past.
Yes.
And how it used to be and what you should have done but invest in what's in front of you right now. And I think if you can see what's in front of you now, because a lot of time, even with the future, people start to look beyond their current opportunities.
Yes,
yeah?
absolutely.
The current opportunities are there.
And for lots of reasons, like cultural surroundings or mindset, and sometimes people just don't know better or don't know the opportunities that are available, I suppose.
That's right. So it's whether you have the perception, the insight, and the ecosystem, because sometimes you recognise that you have to change your ecosystem so that you've got good people around you or good circumstances around you that help you to grow, develop, and establish a stronger identity within your community or within your industry or within your trade. So this is something which is about just, taking
much
you
broader
into the broader picture of representing you to a manager who kind of says, I get you, totally get you. Because you know yourself already, you already know it.
Absolutely.
Or it's so obvious.
Or you know where you're going.
You know where you're going with
and
it,
you're clear
and
on
you're
the
able
path.
to be clear on the path with it.
So the last thing that we talked about yesterday, which I really loved, is when you talked about, because we just mentioned it there about your cultural surroundings and your mindset and your circle, is that when you're on the path to go somewhere, it's that stopping of the car to justify your actions to other people who may not understand your journey. And I suppose it's that intention or determination to follow the picture of you that you see in the future.
Yeah.
And how you don't let yourself get sidetracked or ponder, as you like to use that word, or stop the car is another phrase.
Yeah. For me, I can only go on my own circumstances, but for me, pondering has become the root of my creative devastation.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we can all relate.
I'm very ready to eliminate and crush that concept in my mind and really put it back into the actions that I take day in, day out. So I'd give the analogy of the car, because for me, I drive a car, and I know that it's very clear that
in Ireland we all drive cars as well with our public transport.
As well. And for me, it's like, if I drive a car, I know where I'm going. Okay?
Yeah.
I never drive a car without knowing where I'm going.
You don't sit in the passenger seat.
Yeah, I don't sit in the passenger seat. And I don't sit in the back with nobody driving it. I sit in the front. I get into the habit of knowing how to drive this car forward. But my whole perception is now is to use the petrol that I've put in that car to the end, rather than giving myself the opportunity to sort of park the car up for a moment.
The excuse.
And the excuse of not using that car fully for what it can actually do.
As at the end of the day, you're the only one who can do that.
Yeah.
And if you keep jeopardizing your own chances, then you lose out on your own opportunities and your own purpose and fulfillment in life.
And I think, going back to the analogy of the car, I think at some points you have people who will come as your passenger. So you'll have them driving with you, and you'll have people who are backseaters to that journey as well. Some will be with you navigating. Yeah. And they'll be navigating with you. They'll be feeding you, and you'll be oxygen to each other. Yeah. Ultimately, that car still comes down to you, whether you're the CEO of your own company and your own, for me, it's having the musical industry journey is so open now for artists to really pave their own particular way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you've got to recognise, but recognise that when you're driving that car, at some point, that person who you're with, who's your passenger or the back seat driver with you, or passengers, will decide that maybe that this is where I need to get off because I've got to go. And as long as you're still clear on where you're going, you can always be driving. And it's just about making sure that the car, which I think for me represents you, and the person in the car is the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as that engine, which is all the parts, I think, that make up the car working, which I think is a subject that we need to talk about for a moment, which is all the things that make up your car working. As long as you keep tuning into those, you can continue to take that car forward and keep it running for the long haul. Because I think doing music is a long haul journey. It never happened in 5 minutes. It's a long haul journey.
So after the smooth motorway is gone, you start to drive on the little boring.
Yeah, you've got the trail roads, you've got the sort of the winding roads which have dangers on them that you might not be aware of, but you know, it's just being careful in certain areas and at certain times and that's what you need to tune yourself to with your artistry and your brand, that you know what the brand is. So
just going back there one more step, you talked about the tools of the car, and we'll finish up on that. So can you explain to artists what tools they might need for their artist development management? So the tools that you need, and I think as artists, we can get a bit faded out with what I need to do. I've said it myself. I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go with this. It's like, I'm frustrated that nobody seems to be taking what I'm doing. It's like, that's only because frustration means just change your tact. Yeah, that's all frustration is. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go anywhere. It just means change your angle. Yeah. It means that you are going somewhere, but you need to readjust it. Think smarter. Yeah. So here are a couple of things which I found are the most crucial and most important tools for an artist, somebody who's a vocalist, somebody who's looking after the brand of what they're doing, and or has people around them as well. So for me, one, make the most out of the opportunities that you have already. So if you've got gigs coming up, make them the best gigs that you can do. Make sure that your craft is up to scratch. Make sure that you're able to express that to the world around you. Two, if you have a team around you, or people who are friends or who are in partnership with you, make sure that you're able to manage the vision, because the vision comes from you. It's like you are the vision in the car. So I'm going that way. That's the vision. I hold the vision. But we need people sometimes to help us there. You need people. You can't do it on your own. I don't care what anybody says. There's no person in this industry that can do what they do on their own. You need people. You always will need people. But that doesn't degrade your vision. Absolutely. Your vision is exactly the same. Whether the people are there or not, you'll find new people. You'll find new things on the journey. But you always have to be looking at managing that. So it could be that you have an agent, or it could be that you have a manager, or it could be that you have a camera person who's videoing your stuff. Just making sure that you're managing the vision. Yes. Making sure that the vision is always working towards compelling. Yeah, always a compelling vision towards it. 3, I think it's about world identity. So with social media now, that's where the world identity is. It's like, what's my identity that I'm sharing to the world? What is it? So we talked about branding. That's your world identity. Me with a hat, me with a suitcase, me walking the streets and talking to people about music, me creating music on the spot, me doing 1 minute wonders. That's my world identity. And that's something which is representative, I think, of who I am. So how can I explore that even further? Yeah? 4, your skills have to be looked after. I don't care if I'm really good at that one. Yeah. Voice training and not singing. So the whole thing of voice training, as opposed to not singing, outweighs it. It's unbalanced. You can practice as much as you want. And so is the other side. Performing all the time and not doing any voice training. And being on social media but not doing anything else to do your development. It's always about balance. But this is an important part for the most how can I put, professional singers. I'm going to give an example of most of the people who are touring. You think that they just kind of get up there and do their thing. No, the little mixes, the Grandes, the Justin Biebers, they all have lessons. They all have lessons, because at each stage. I hear Little Mix have a really good vocal coach as well. They do have a very good vocal coach. Josh. So I don't care in that respect. I just think it's so important to not underestimate the power of your skills,
needing development, and as well the effect that it has in terms of your confidence again in your voice and your ability to maintain a longer career with your voice, and to, I think, just get people. If you get people where your voice is just on it, it's such a powerful thing. And then there is to do with the performances. So looking for new performances for your work is very, very important all the time. Where can I play again? And the last one is networking, which can come from performances, but also can come from turning up into the places where your industry is, where you want to be.
Yes.
So going to conventions on jazz music or pop music,
come into Ireland to do workshops,
industry showcases, or where you can be surrounded by other musicians and collaborate and see where there are other lines that can help your work. And I think if you've got all those and you're looking at those every day, you're gonna be taking a step further than the 80% of maybe singers who won't have that. It's almost like giving yourself the opportunity to really win with your art. And I think that that's the key thing. There's nothing else. It's literally five different parts that you need to consider, which we'll put down. We'll put down and put them online on as a blog. But I think it's important for you to remember those, and they're transferable. Really, they're transferable in different areas as well.
And I need to look at my pie chart and see what I'm missing.
Yes.
Probably loads.
Always looking at the pie chart.
Every day, no pie, just the pie chart.
Apple pie.
Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That was really insightful. I think we just covered a whole 2 days workshop in a few minutes. I suppose this is what it's all about for me, trying to enlighten artists, especially people starting out, and people who are already, I suppose, established but feel like they are a bit stuck and want to go somewhere. And I personally feel that the likes of you guys and the Joshua Alamus and those sort of people are always people who are looking to up their game all the time. So for me, I choose to mix with this circle because it keeps me upping my game all the time.
And I choose to be even more in the circle with the people who give,
who are trying to up their game,
but as well are crushing the illusions as well. Of what it means to do art. Art is not a poor person's game. Art is a fulfillment game. It's about passion.
You can choose to do the poor person's game.
And you can choose to do it. You can choose to do that route and go by what society maybe has created around it. But actually, let me tell you this myself, I feel very successful with my art. I've had real great moments. And I've had wonderful moments financially. I've had wonderful moments with people. I've had great moments with the brand, great moments with the music. And I think if you can remember that, if you love what you do, you'll always do what you do, And at different points you'll be in the limelight, and different points you may not be. But it doesn't stop you being an earner and being able to establish great ground with your music in different ways.
Yes. So that is a big one, I think, for me as well, because I feel like a lot of the time maybe I've let somebody else take the driver's seat. Or maybe not so much somebody else take the driver's seat, but let someone's mindset influence my driver's seat.
Totally.
Or surrounding mindset.
Totally. It can be a very insecure thing. How do you know about, you need to, self-awareness is something that you can't teach. You can't teach self-awareness. You have to become more aware through the decisions and the choices, and then the decisions you make based on those choices and the experiences that you have from doing it.
And being able to sit with that person at the end of the day. Yourself.
And which is you. And that's all you have at the end of the day. It's just like when everybody's gone, when everybody stops shouting your name, when you come back to you and you go, I'm good. I feel great. I feel great about just what I'm doing. And there's more to learn. So for me, there's winners and there's learners. There's winning and there's learning at the end of the day. So, Thank you very much. Pleasure. And if you want to catch up with me, if I can just do that quick plug, www.randolphmatthews.com And then as well, hashtag Randolph Matthews, Randolph World, should I say. Equally as well, you can catch me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So thank you very much.
And you've got some very cool 1 minute wonders out at the moment.
Yep, so 1 minute wonders you'll find as well. Hashtag 1 minute wonders.
Randolph Matthews.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.